All right, it's live. Welcome back, strangers. Tonight, I'm excited to have Haunted Road Media. We got Mike here. I'm also starting this off without Blake, so let me follow the outline. I don't have I still have my sound on too. This is annoying. All right, but thank you so much for joining us tonight. Haunted Road Media is a paranormal and unsolved mysteries channel. Also does historic curiosities. I like that in your description. They're not just on YouTube. They're a multimedia publishing company, and you can check out their books, podcasts, and paranormal investigations. So it's going to be a great time getting to know them. But I'm Ethan with The Strangest. I help write, edit, and sometimes narrate. But how do you introduce Haunted Road Media to people in your job?
How do I introduce them? I just say it's a paranormal video production and publishing company. That's pretty much the cut and dry. I mean, there's a ton of different things that we do, but those are the two main things.
Yeah. What do you like doing the most out of all that?
Well, that's such a difficult question to answer, because I've always been a writer. I've been writing since I was 7 years old. So that's always been my passion. All of this started, and all of this is the way it is right now, just because I wanted to write books. That's it. Yeah. But I just look at it and it's like, well, I guess the world wanted more from me, because, I was writing mystery novels, and I wrote some, paranormal short fiction. And then, and I know you have a list of questions there with some different things about the paranormal, how I got started. But, I'd had some experiences when I was young. And so it was always something that's kind of with me. And like I said, I had the mystery books out and all that. And then really the writing the paranormal just kind of fell into my lap as far as the ghost books and all that, which is kind of a nice thing for, fortune to happen one day. And, I was asked by by that particular publisher, because they were expanding their lines of paranormal books. This was about, oh my gosh, over 10 years ago now. And, they asked if I would go ahead and write a book about ghost stories in Maryland, since I was living there at the time. And I was like, well, yeah, sure, of course. I'll jump right on that. And it's really blossomed since there. Haunted Road Media is a brainchild from, I don't know, about 8 years ago. Finally started to really kick off here about 4 or 5 years ago. Not only with my books, but with books from other writers within the paranormal field. So we have about 10, 12 authors, something like that right now. A lot of books that are out. So go to hauntedroadmedia.com, check all that out. But the video side of it, the video production side of it, started with really kind of chronicling ghosts and Legends of Oklahoma, which is a book that I came out with earlier this decade. And it was kind of to complement the book, go to the locations that were in the book, talk about the ghost stories, do some paranormal investigation videos, that sort of thing. And it really just kind of blew up and blossomed from there. You and I were chatting a little bit about YouTube earlier on. I came across vlogs at some point in time, was like, hey, I could do some of those. So that's where the whole Mike's Morning Mug thing came from. The Friday Night Ghost Frights was, because I was stumbling across different ghost story videos. And so I wanted to do some different ghost stories. And, I'm a paranormal investigator as well. So, there's a large number of, full paranormal investigation videos on our channel as well. Some really fantastic evidence. So kind of doing a little bit of it all.
Yeah, I was wondering about how it started. I saw on your website that you did Maryland and then the Oklahoma thing and then more Midwest stuff. So you've really jumped around. So where are you based now? Where do you focus on mostly?
Yeah, right now I'm in Illinois. I do travel a lot, and I have lived in a number of different places. Born in Ohio, spent a number of years in Massachusetts, back to Ohio. I was in the Air Force for 6 years, so that was Texas, Mississippi, Alaska, then to Maryland, where I stayed for quite a while. 3 years in Oklahoma, then back to Maryland, then back to Ohio, and now I'm in Illinois. So I've bounced around a lot. And I like to travel anyway. I've been to all but about 3 states. So
that's impressive. Which 3 states is it? Do you know off the top of your head?
Yeah, that would be New Mexico, North Dakota, and Hawaii.
Yeah. Not been to any of those places. So what's the most haunted?
No, New Mexico has some great stuff as far as Native American archaeology, things like that. Hawaii. I mean, who doesn't want to go to Hawaii? The one that I have to question that North Dakota. I have no idea what's there.
But you've been to South Dakota. That's its like cousin right there.
Yeah, yeah. You got South Dakota. You got the Badlands, and all that stuff there. So.
And then you can jump over into Canada. You can hit a lot of places right there.
Well, yeah, I've been to Canada a couple times. I drove through Canada. I drove out of Alaska through Canada. That was a heck of a trip because we ended up going all the way down to LA and then cross country to Maryland. When I was a little younger.
That's really cool. I love to travel. I mean, super dream goal would be literally to do a road trip, like a really long road trip, hitting up a bunch of places, filming, writing. Just all that takes time. Like we did a mini road trip last year where we went all through the South and got it like Charleston, Savannah, St. Augustine, and New Orleans, and came back up. But I'd like to do more of that. That'd be really cool. So
yeah, all that stuff is a lot of fun.
Like the whole haunted traveling thing, and like you mentioned vlogs, like that's where I really got interested in it. Was like watching like scary like YouTubers, but like also combining it with more like a vlog style where you actually film and try to do the best filming. Still struggling like learning how to like edit it really nice and everything because it's hard to make it flow. Like you guys, all the stuff you guys do are impressive. So how many people is it like that works on your channel or everything you do? Is it just you, or do you have people to help you?
Well, as far as like the video editing, I mean, that's me, but Haunted Road Media is essentially me and my partner, Shauna. We have several other people that are involved, like Vanessa Hogel is my co-host on Edge of the Rabbit Hole. And then we have some people who help out on the social media side. They would call them our Cheshire Cats. Edge of the Rabbit Hole, we got the whole Alice in Wonderland theme. So you have your Strangers, we have our Mad Hatters,
Oh, that's good.
So yeah, Donna Gorton and Bonnie Halpern help out with that, and also with getting because we're doing a Paracon, paranormal convention here in June. We did one last year, which was great. So they're helping out with a number of things with that as well. So it's kind of the core, and then kind of like we have a core group of people that may not specifically be affiliated with Haunted Road Media, but they do a lot to share our stuff out and support and all that. So we have like a White Rabbit notification squad. So when we go live or we post a video or something important comes out, they share it all out. So
No, that's really good. I mean, you need that because I mean, I had this in the outline, but I didn't mention it. We literally our last video, it didn't go out the sub box or in notifications until 4 hours after it went live. So it was just like sitting there. It showed up in searches, and it happened to Phantom of Darkness too with another channel. I mean, with his video, his went out 9 hours before ours. And I saw it on Instagram. I was just joking with him about it, about being YouTube, and I didn't even think about we had a video scheduled that morning, and I just let it go, and it got. I mean, it only got 1,000 views because of that. So
yeah, YouTube is kind of they talk about how, well, if you just click the bell icon, then everybody's going to get the notification. And then they threw something out there about how, well, the top of the hour, bottom of the hour, all that stuff, there's a lot of heavy traffic on the server, so it might be a little slow. And I get people all the time that tell me I didn't get the notification, or, I got the notification so much later. And, so that's why we developed a little squad of people that will go ahead and just share it out and try to let others know that, hey, it's posted, just in case they didn't get the notification.
No, that's really smart. I mean, you have to have that though, because you put so much time.
I didn't come up with that. I got that one from Roberto Blake.
But still, I mean, you have to have something in place to help, because you put all this effort into something, and if no one sees it, I mean, that can be really discouraging. So
Right. And you're doing it. I mean, there's a big part of it that's for yourself because you enjoy doing it and all that. But there's also another part where you're trying to give back to other people. It's stuff that they want. So, we get into a lot of, history, paranormal phenomena, all that sort of stuff. And people are looking for that kind of information. So, we're trying to get all that out to them. And so it is discouraging when, YouTube's kind of stumbling over itself to let them know that it's out there and it exists. So, we try to kind of help that whole process and get it out there to the people.
Yeah. So you started as an author. Now you do all of this stuff, like wear many hats. Did your with Oklahoma stuff? Did your publisher, like you still with your old publisher doing that YouTube stuff? Did they think the YouTube thing was crazy to do it? Or were they like encouraging you to branch out and do other social media stuff?
Well. They didn't really have one say or another on it. I mean, it's because it's not like they had retained movie rights or any of that type of media rights to it. So I could essentially do anything I wanted to with it on that kind of a platform. But, you know, when I mentioned it to my editor, you know, he was like, go for it, because she knew that it would create exposure and then in turn would sell more books.
Yeah.
Which was kind of the idea.
Well, it's good to have like a business model idea and stuff in mind to do it. So like you went from writing and stuff, and like I didn't know until I was researching you that you actually wrote the fiction books. I just like knew you did paranormal stuff. So do you still write fiction, or is it all like paranormal, like historical stuff now? Yeah.
Yeah, I do still write my fiction. I haven't for a while. I was meshing the paranormal with the fiction already. I was writing detective fiction, and so I had an online project that I was doing with our primary illustrator with Haunted Road Media, Adam Tillery, fantastic artist, and it was called the Time Chandler Chronicles. And so this was a monthly online, almost kind of like an e-zine sort of thing, but it was it's paranormal fiction. And so he would supply the artwork, I would write the story, and even had some little videos doing voiceovers with it. Just got really busy, and so it's on hiatus right now. I'm in the middle of writing some other books. I'm also editing other people's books and getting those out with Haunted Road Media. So I have some other fiction projects on the back burner as well, but my primary goal as far as my own writing this year is a shadow person book that I'm currently writing. So that's one of the big things that I talk about when I'm on the road is shadow people. It's one of my bigger presentations. So I'm actually in the process of writing that book.
Yeah, I saw that a banner or whatever for you speaking about shadow people when I was looking up stuff too. So like, how much do you write per day? Like when you're writing, like do you spend hours of write what you do? Like how's it work?
As much as I can. You know, a lot of people try to set a, I'm going to do, 1,500 words or 5,000 words, whatever. They try to do a word count. With my schedule being kind of all over the place, I try to just get in as much as I can. So it might just be a couple hundred words a day versus, a few thousand words another day. And it's not that, I'm not working on something. And usually a lot of what I'm working on is writing based, like the videos, I write out all of those scripts. So I'm still writing. It's just not for a book necessarily. So it's a bit all over the place right now. One of these days, my schedule will settle down a little bit and I'll get into a nice routine. The thing is that I still hold down a day job.
You do? Really? On top of all of this?
On top of everything else, I still hold down a day job, yeah.
I saw you have 4 kids. How do you do all this?
Well, my kids are grown.
Really? But still.
I mean, you're a pretty young guy. How old are you?
I'm 28. So.
28. Okay, yeah. So you're 3 years older than my oldest.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, he'll be 26 here in May. So, yeah, I mean, I have my youngest is a junior in high school. So,
all right. Well, when I was reading your stuff, I saw where you said you had 20 years of experience, all this. I'm like, this guy has discovered the fountain of youth and his investigations too. Like, look at him. He's done so much.
Yeah. If you just hit I-90 and go west for, about 100 miles, from Chicago, no. Take a left, you'll be right there at the fountain of youth.
Yeah.
No, yeah, when I had kids, there was of course a lot less that I could do. I wasn't really doing much of anything except, focusing on family and all that until about 9 o'clock at night when the kids were in bed. I'd read them bedtime stories and all that stuff, which, being the writer. And then, from 9 o'clock and on, I would kind of be doing my thing. So, my very first book, it took me years to get out the door. Social media was a different animal back then. So I was doing, less of that. It was like MySpace and you had a website, and before MySpace, it was just your website and you're trying to, do some meta tags and stuff like that. So it was a different animal back then. And now with all the different platforms that you can use to, promote, get yourself out there and utilize, that's taken a lot more time. But fortunately, I'm like nearly past the whole raising the kids thing. So, they're all, I have 2 college graduates. The one's off on his own. So there's a lot more of my time that I have now available to be able to do these sorts of things.
Yeah, it's still rough. It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to do. So like with the paranormal, like when did you first get interested in paranormal stuff? Did you have an experience, or is it just something you always liked?
Yeah, well, I mean, it comes from an experience. I mean, it's always been an interest of mine, and it could be because of that experience, but like I said, when I first started writing, I was about 7 years old, and even back then, I was writing some little uh, paranormal short stories. It was mostly mystery, but like I had a little short. My mother kept all this stuff, so that's why I remember the stories. Like I had a little story in there about walking down the street with all these different haunted houses, and this woman wanted to give me the Raven. Not a Raven, but like the Raven for like Edgar Allan Poe. So like even at 7 years old, it's like I'm into Poe.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But I had a shadow person experience when I was about 8 or 9 years old. Woke up in the middle of the night, and it was standing there in the corner of my room. Of course, I was terrified at the time. I thought there was an intruder in the house. I had no idea about shadow people. I'm thinking there's somebody that's in the house and is going to kill me because it's here in my room just staring at me.
Yeah.
Didn't do that, though. It did approach me, and it did the craziest things. It crossed my arms across my body like that, and then it ran off down the hall, and of all places, into the hallway closet. So found my voice, found my legs, got up, ran, told my parents, and they're telling me I had a bad dream. And it's like, no, this was not a bad dream. So, from that point forward, I knew that there was something different about this world. At that age, I was still terrified of it and what have you, but I was becoming more and more curious about it. When I got a little bit older, and like I said, I lived in Massachusetts for a time, for about 10 years during my childhood. When we moved from there, I was 13 years old. And as a kind of interesting way to sort of remember the area of the country from where I'd come from, my mother bought me the book Yankee Ghost by Hans Holzer. And I don't think she really realized what it was at the time. She was just thinking, I guess, a book of, ghost stories, from around New England and all that. So I'm reading it as we're driving to Ohio from Massachusetts. And, it didn't hit me at first until I got a couple stories in. I was like, wait a minute, these are like all real. These are true.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was a big influence at that age, as well as the Amityville horror and stuff like that. So my first quote official paranormal investigation, I was about 15 years old. And really I had no idea it would really be called an investigation, but it was, if you think about it. We were at a friend's house. My friend David and I were at this girl Lori's house. And we're just, sitting in the living room, shooting the breeze, talking about whatever high school drama of the day. And all of a sudden Lori tells us, hey, I think my house is haunted. Like, whoa, okay, well, this is cool. So what do you mean? And so she was telling us about how in her bedroom, anytime that she would tack something up on a wall, think the posters from, because we're kids. And then anytime she'd put something up on this wall, whether it was a couple minutes, couple hours, couple days, whatever, it would always fall down to the floor. It would not stay on the wall. So we're going to go check it out. Hence, now we're investigating. So we go up there, we're taking a look at the wall, trying to put stuff up. I didn't know at the time, but my friend David was very, very sensitive. So much so that he put his hand flat to the wall, and all of a sudden he just turned this bright red and started sweating profusely. It was like, whoa, what the heck just happened to my friend? It was really, really strange. So he started going around to other walls in the house to see what the hot spots were. And so that's kind of how we spent the rest of that afternoon, is seeing what the different hot spots were, if anything else was haunted, if things were falling off walls, that sort of stuff. But I knew then, like, at some point along the road, I'm going to get into this a lot deeper. I didn't know at that time where that would take me, because we're talking late 80s, early 90s, and there was no internet. I was in a small town, so it's like the only book that was paranormal there in the library was Amityville Horror. So that's all I had to go on. It seemed like my Yankee Ghost book was probably the only other paranormal book in town, so there was no other way for me to get information back then. It was just, whatever I could possibly get my hands on, and it wasn't much. So it was as I started getting a little bit older, and like Sixth Sense came out, they gave me a clue about EVPs. Like, oh, that's the stuff that Holzer was talking about in his book. When the World Wide Web finally hit, and there's bulletin boards and forums and all that stuff, and people are starting to put together websites with different information. Then it's like, okay, now I'm able to connect with other people and get more involved, and talk to people who have experienced the same things that I have, and so that's where it really started to kind of take off for me.
Yeah. So have you had any other experiences besides that one shadow person one, like when you've investigated or anything?
Well, yeah, when I've investigated, I mean, geez, a ton. I mean,
Yeah.
because yeah, I've been investigating for a long time now, and I mean, that was my only shadow experience, shadow person experience when I was a kid. That was the only one at that house. When I moved to the new house in Ohio, there was this other one that was very, very different, where I'm unpacking boxes and trying to figure out where I'm going to put everything, and I kept seeing something out of the corner of my eye, and I turned, look, and I would see like this shadow dart around the doorway from my bedroom out, into the hallway. I was like, what the heck is that? And this kept happening like several times. And so I finally asked my mother, and it said this time, I guess maybe because I'm a little bit older, she didn't tell me the stream. Of course, I was awake anyway. But she told me that, yeah, she saw the same thing as well. I was like, oh, okay. So I started calling the thing Tom, like peeping Tom.
Yeah.
So, this went on for like a couple months, and then it just subsided and went away. I lived there for 5 years, but it was really only those first couple months that it was hanging around.
So, like, do you think it was just in the house, or do you think any of this stuff followed you from the other house? Do you think the Tom thing was different than the first thing you saw?
Yeah, it was definitely different. Because the thing in Massachusetts it was complete solid form, where the one in Ohio was more wispy, more translucent. You kind of still see a head and maybe some shoulders, and it's just kind of wispy on the bottom, sort of thing. Where the thing in my bedroom when I was younger was just full. It looked like a human being. It's just everything was black. So two different types of shadow people there.
Yeah. So have you ever captured any, like, what's the coolest evidence you've captured on camera when you're like investigating somewhere?
Yeah, I've caught some interesting things like white wisps. I'm not an orb person, but I have this fantastic illuminated ball of light from Black Bear Church. We have actually caught a shadow person on camera. There's one location that Shauna used to be her old grade school. We can't get into it now either, because the archaeology department locally is taking it over. But we caught a shadow person there. At the bottom of the stairs was an apparition of a woman. You see her hair, the dress. She's got the arms folded like that. Somebody in that sees a little boy off to the side of her. I have a hard time seeing that one. But when we were trying to debunk that, because we set a static cam there looking down the stairs, because it was like every time that we'd be like in the gym or the boys' locker room area, which kind of leads to the basement area, we'd always hear something that we thought was coming from downstairs in the basement. So we'd go down into the basement. We wouldn't ever experience anything. And we probably investigated there about, I don't know, 4 times or something like that. So one of the times that we're down there, it's like, maybe it's not the basement. Maybe it's the stairs, because sometimes we hear maybe some shuffling up and down the stairs and, and other noises. We were thinking were coming up from the opposite stairs. And it's like, maybe it's not the basement. Maybe it's just the stairs themselves. So we set up a static cam, and that's where we got that the apparition of that woman. So then the next time we were there, we needed to debunk it. We got to try to see if we can capture again, maybe some matrixing on the wall down there, something like that. And when we did that, we're not seeing it in the camera. It's no matrixing. We're not seeing the same image there. But then from the hallway that leads into the basement, out shoots this rock into the bottom of the stairwell area. Okay. So there's still something there, even though it's not the woman this time. So that's a really interesting location. We've got a lot of stuff there.
Yeah. Man, my dog keeps barking. Sorry.
It's all right.
Have you ever come across people trying to like hoax you or like tell you some bullshit just so you could go and investigate, or like do you ever get that feeling from people?
Yeah, it happens sometimes, unfortunately. One of the times that it happened was this house that actually had some legitimate paranormal activity going on. We already had an investigation there. We did capture a little bit of activity going on. So when we went back, they showed us this photo, and we recognized it immediately because they would they have those different ghost apparition apps where you can basically superimpose an image of somebody onto a photo and say it's a ghost. So we were aware of these. We kept them. We kept them on our phones just for moments like this, where they show us the photo of it's the wall. There's I forget all the stuff that was in the picture, but then there's like this woman that's there, and it's like, I've seen that woman. So pull up the ghost app. It's this one, right? And they're like, it's like, we're gone. So you have something going on here, but we are not going to stick around if you're going to make stuff up and lie to us. Because there are other video clips and stuff that they were trying to pass off to us as like, we captured this. Could this be something? And you're looking at us like, maybe. But once they showed us that photo, it was like you couldn't trust any of their other footage. So we were done.
Yeah, how do you make sure like they keep things authentic? Do you like go back and look at every different, like every way like things could have happened, like every possible scenario like that might have caused it?
Yeah, I mean, we try to capture as many different angles. We have a few different cameras, so we try to capture as many angles as possible. Something that's really helped with this is a 360 cam that we have. So that, and we've actually captured stuff on it where you hear something in another room and you're like, okay, what was that? And then you're usually like throwing the camera back in that direction, or hope that one of the other cameras that you have set up as a static cam caught it. With 360 cam, it's like, oh, okay, well, we can just look right over there. We'll just pan the image around a little bit. Yeah, and there was another one where it's like the light turned on. We had the 360 cam set up in this one bedroom. I was walking out into the hallway, and it's like, all of a sudden I'm just like, did the light just go on for a moment? Shauna hadn't noticed because she was doing something else in the room. But as I was in the hallway, and you look back through the footage off the 360 cam, and sure enough, the light in the other room across the way, it turned on for like a brief moment. So that helps in trying to at least get a nice view of the area. But yeah, so you try to set up as many cameras as you can. Of course, you have different people carrying multiple. Like I'll carry an audio recorder, Sean will carry an audio recorder. So yeah, you do as much to kind of cross check as you can.
How like easy is it to deal with a 360 camera? Like looking back at the footage, and like, do you ever edit it together? Like,
I have, and it's been a while since I've put out a 360 video because they are. I mean, it's tough. The software that I have, I'm using Vegas, and basically you have a circle. You're looking at a circle trying to edit this, and you're kind of like, okay, well, so what's going on here? And a lot of times I'm just like listening to the audio, trying to figure out, oh, where are we at and what are we doing? And then when you render that and it stitches it all back together, I mean, the render times are crazy. I mean, I've had 6 and 9 hour render times on those videos, and it's just unbelievable. So I haven't put out a 360 video for a while because of that, which is sad, because to me it's a useful tool because you have that full 360 panoramic view and can really check to see stuff that's going on. And some people think it's pretty cool, that they'll put on the goggles, or they'll pick up their phone and move around like that, and they think it's cool. There's other people it makes them dizzy to look at stuff like that. So it's kind of hit or miss with it.
I think it's really,
it takes so long.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I'd never thought about actually using that in an investigation. We thought about getting it just for like different video ideas you could do with it, but it's so complex to edit, and then like you said, the render time, that we wouldn't get as much use out of it as probably like the learning curve and actually like using it. So
yeah,
I don't know. So what is something paranormal you don't believe in that you like called BS on like right away?
Ghost boxes.
You don't like ghost boxes?
Nope. They're radios. We did a video back in November just breaking down, what a ghost box really is and how they work and all of that. In order for that to really work, to be a spirit voice, not the spirit voice coming in off the white noise, I can buy that. I'm fine with that. But to actually come in off the radio signal, a ghost would actually have to speak in radio. If you actually look at how radio and radio signals and all that works, it doesn't make any sense as far as if this is actually picking up through the receiver a spirit of a ghost. The other way would be for a spirit to have to manipulate the actual bits and pieces that are coming in to the radio, spit it back out, and I have no idea how in a split second a ghost is going to foresee what's coming up next on the next several radio stations, be able to stitch that together themselves and spit it out as a couple of words. So yeah, I don't believe in the ghost boxes.
So what do you take with you then? What's something like if someone's starting investigating, like what should they take with them besides a ghost box? Then what do you recommend?
What do you mean, not a ghost box?
Yeah, not good. Yeah, besides that, like if people starting out, I mean, most things I think of is like a phone, because at least it has like a flashlight and you can record stuff, take pictures, film. You kind of have like all in one right there, and everyone.
Yeah,
has
safety first. So, safety first. Take a flashlight. That's number one. I know that some people try to be tough and go without a flashlight. It's like some of these places that you go into are very dangerous, and so don't try to be tough and go without a flashlight. Take one. Be safe about it. But I mean, I have a lot of different gadgets and gear and all that. But when it comes down to it, I mean, number one, your best tool that you have is yourself. Your own senses, and you might not be psychic or anything like that, and you might not have sensitivity as we like to call it, but you have your 5 senses that are very useful during an investigation. So always be cognizant of yourself and what you're feeling and what you are experiencing. But I like to keep it simple, audio recorder. Of course, I have a number of different cameras. Like I said, flashlight, notepad and pencil. People forget to take notes. I do have a K2 meter that I'll use, and it doesn't mean a ghost is nearby. It just means something unusual is happened with the EMF, and so it may or may not think. I have been able to communicate with a K2 a little bit, which is interesting when it happens. Most times it doesn't. I do have an SLS camera, which that one, for the most part, I buy it. You have to be careful of false positives, but it's picking up movement. You're not seeing anything in front of you, but something's moving. And walking across the floor. It's like, okay, that's interesting. Yeah. It's a more expensive device. So somebody starting out, that would be a little bit pricier. So I mean, to me, basic tools are just auto recorder, camera, flashlight, that sort of stuff, and then you can kind of add things as you go along, like a K2 or a Mel meter. I have a UV flashlight, which wasn't too expensive, and it's kind of interesting. People are speculating that maybe on a different wavelength like that, like maybe spirits didn't necessarily like the regular, flashlight, and maybe it was too bright or whatever for them. And so people were speculating, well, maybe a UV light, and so you try UV light. And so I haven't really gotten much of anything different with UV light, but it does make some of the footage look kind of cool.
Do you have any tricks for like going back and reviewing footage? Because if you're like investigating, that's like so much there, like audio, video. Like, do you look through it all, or do you have any like editing tricks?
I do, and people find that to be tedious, but you miss things. Like people will pop the audio file up into whatever whether it's SoundForge or Audacity or whatever, and they'll try to look for spikes. But there are times where there's not a noticeable spike, but you still hear something. And so if you're just doing that by just trying to visually look at the wave file and looking for spikes, you're going to miss some stuff. So I do tediously go through that. And what I've discovered over the years is that the first time or two around, you miss things. There's times that we're editing, a new video, but using some old footage, like maybe we're doing a top 5 video, or we're doing a recap of a particular place where we've investigated like 5 or 6 times, and so here's our best moments from that location. And we're going back through the footage, and it's like, did you hear that? I mean, there was one here that we just did for Mineral Springs Hotel, where I'd done the I call it the Mineral Springs comprehensive video. That's my terminology for it. I think I threw it out there as mineral. I can't remember what I called it. Mineral Springs something. It was back in the fall. It's the only one that we did over the past year like that from Mineral Springs. But in any case, I'd already had it out on YouTube. We're sitting down there in the living room watching it on the television, and some of the footage as we're walking out of the one room into the next, we hear clear as a bell, "Hey," it's some other woman's voice. It's
Yeah.
like, how in the world? Because we'd already done the original video with that clip. We just came out with this new video on Mineral Springs that was kind of like a whole tour of the building, from location to location, our best footage from those locations within the building. It's like, we've gone over it twice. How did we miss it both those times? So we finally, a couple of weeks ago on Inside the Upside Down, one of our live stream shows, we were doing an overview of Mineral Springs, and we included that clip. Like, okay, here it is. We finally picked up on it. Yeah, it's just funny. It's funny how that works sometimes. Like, it takes a couple times sometimes to go through it and okay, there's that. And I think it's maybe because you're focused on other things when you're going through it, and
Yeah.
you don't necessarily catch it that first time around.
Yeah, I mean, the way we do most of our videos, it's just like narrate over, telling about the history and the stories of it. We've worked on a couple like investigation type videos, but we haven't. I think the closest one we've released was like the Mothman TNT area. That one we sat on a year. We have another one in St. Augustine that we haven't released. I worked on editing it, but it's just like so much footage, so much to go through, and to make it interesting and keep it all together. Like, it's definitely an art, the way people do the investigation videos.
Yeah, I think in some cases with this, it's almost like writing. So, you write a story, you write a book, whatever, and you put it away for a while. Don't just jump right immediately to, okay, I'm going to go ahead and publish and all that. Put it away for a while. Let it just like escape your mind. Because if you try to immediately go back and try to re-edit it, your mind is already focused on, well, I know what all this says. I just wrote it, and so you skip stuff. But when your mind clears and you go back to it and you're looking at the manuscript, you're like, you forget how you wrote everything at that point. And so you're looking at it like, oh, here's this, oh, here's that. And I think that's kind of the same deal with the investigation videos, where usually when I'm first putting them together, it's not long after we actually had the investigation. So my mind is already set. Okay, this is where I want to go, with the story in the video. This is how I want to put together. This happened to us at that moment, so I want to make sure to include that. And so that's where all my focus is. And so I think it's because going back through it, I'm so far removed now from the original investigation and the original video that was made and all that stuff, that other things are starting to pop out to me.
Hold on, Celtic Girl. I'm really struggling to keep up with the chat, but she asked, here's a side curveball. What's your favorite horror movie?
Oh my gosh, favorite horror movie? That's a good question. I mean, I put out a video back in October on the different paranormal movies I like to watch around Halloween. And so, to me, as far as like a paranormal movie for Halloween, number one has got to be Halloween, or at least as far as a horror movie for Halloween. Which you could say there's some supernatural stuff to Mike Myers, but I mean, I do like the Conjuring universe because of what they've been able to do with it. Not that I mean, almost none of it's real. I'm actually good friends with Andrea Perrin, the real life oldest daughter from the original Conjuring case.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. So, and she has a trilogy of books on what really happened at the farmhouse. So the movie makes it out to be like everything what happened in like a couple months or whatever. But it was like 10 years of time, and there's so much more that happened over that period of time. So it's very, very different. But they've made it entertaining, and I like how they've been able to link all these different things together. And I like what James Wan said not too long ago, that hey, if Marvel can do it with superheroes, why can't I do it with horror movies?
Yeah.
To create a universe like that. And it's like, okay, that's cool. I respect that.
I mean, he's just a brilliant director and everything in general. So, I mean, if someone can do it, he can do it. So.
Well, and you see how all those different franchises, like over the past 15 years, are all linked together with Paranormal Activity, Insidious, and then the Conjuring universe. I mean, those are all the same directors and producers and everything. They're all linked together. Yeah. So, and those are three, big franchises over the last 15 years that have been great.
Yeah, and they're also really good at like doing it on a small budget and making something big out of it. So it's
Yeah, yeah.
impressive. So compared to like normal Hollywood, compared to like a superhero movie. So
Yeah, well, and and as far as horror stuff, like, I grew up on Freddy Krueger and all those old school guys, so
yeah, that's why I thought like you saying the Conjuring stuff was interesting since you would have grown up during like the slasher craze and everything. So
yeah, it was a little bit different back then with Friday the 13th and all that stuff. So I actually like this this series, like I said, over the last 15 years of different franchises that have come out, because to me it's what's interesting to me about it is that it could be real, even though some of this stuff is supposed to be based on real cases. And they Hollywoodize it is kind of the term that I use. It makes you think, okay, this could happen to me, and what's actually really out there if some of this stuff is true and real, and some of the stuff in there, are actual accounts
yeah,
of what happened. So some of that stuff is true, but yeah, it kind of makes you really think. I'm more of kind of the slow burn type guy, anyways, but I like story. And the old slasher films, you knew what was going to happen. So there was a girl that was going to get killed in the shower. There's going to be one last person standing after they finally had the last whatever ritual you had to do to get rid of the bad guy, but he was going to come back again for the next movie anyway. I mean, it was always the same thing. Wash, rinse, repeat, and it worked okay back then. But this one is these series of movies, it's a lot more in depth. There's a lot more backstory. There's ways that they've been able to connect all these different characters together, and I really like that, especially as a writer.
yeah. So out of all that stuff, like in The Conjuring and stuff, what do you think is the most like extreme paranormal things that could happen? Because some of the stuff that happens like in The Conjuring, I know it's like supposedly like based on true stuff, but that's like extreme. Like I don't even know what I would do in a situation like that.
Yeah, with I mean, some of that stuff that you have to understand, they went over the top with it, but like the woman that Carolyn encountered at the farmhouse was it wasn't Bathsheba, but it was a nasty, nefarious woman that was there. So some of that, like with when it was like hovering over her when she was in the bed, it's like, okay, that was like a little bit there that actually happened to her.
Yeah.
So some of that stuff does happen. I mean, one of the things that like they didn't show in the first Conjuring movie that really happened was so they held a seance in the kitchen. So Lorraine was always big on seances, and I don't think in either one of the movies they actually show her doing a seance. She was always big on seances. They're doing one in the kitchen, and all this stuff starts flying around. Caroline actually gets thrown backward, and Roger's so ticked off that this just happened to his wife that he punches out Ed. That's really cool. That's something that really happened,
Yeah.
And the Warrens had great intentions, but they actually kind of stirred more up.
Yeah. So, I mean, hold on, let me think of the next question. I'm struggling. Now, the Warrens. So, do you think all of that was fake, or do you think it was real? Do you think parts of it was real?
With the Warrens, or
yeah, the
movie?
Warrens. Yeah, the Warrens. Like the stuff that they wrote and the narratives that they put out. Like, do you think they stretched things, like the stories, or? I
think they embellished some things. Yeah. I just covered Annabelle actually tonight on my Friday Night Ghost Frights, and it's funny because you try to look for information. You see all these different websites, all these different articles that are online that have, all the names are different. They all differ in the facts and, the story and all that. But you go to the Warrens website and they actually have, hey, here's what happened. And to me, it's funny. It's like, okay, the Warrens are the ones that reported it, yet all these sites just can't, not that you're going to copy and paste, but essentially that's where we're going to take the story from, right? Yeah. So it's funny to me how that's all different. But it's how much do you believe them? Now, I've never actually met Ed or Lorraine. Ed's already passed away. I know a lot of people who do know Lorraine and have met her, and they say she's a very sweet woman, and I have no reason to not believe them. like I said, I believe the Warrens meant well, but yeah, I do believe like the Amityville. That's one where I believe that they embellished. I already mentioned Hans Holzer before, and he had his own take on the place. And maybe I'm a little biased because I grew up on his writing. But he's like, well, yeah, the place is haunted, but it's not all this stuff that's going on with the Lutzes. Like the Warrens went in there and were basically backing up what the Lutzes had put forward. And Holzer's like, yeah, it's not all of that. There's a ticked off Indian here because they desecrated the land that had been here for the Native Americans, way back in the day, and so he's kind of ticked off. But it's not all this crazy stuff with a demonic pig and slime coming down the walls, and no. So now what's interesting about that case though is they did capture that ghost boy photo. And
yeah, I posted that on Facebook recently. I hadn't really seen that photo before. Like I read a lot about it recently. So
yeah,
what do you think of it?
I mean, I'm mixed on it. I lean toward it being legit, but I understand why people are skeptical of it. Because again, you kind of have to take their word in some of these cases. Like, so they say that there was no boy on the set, which is like, okay, with all that going on, you're getting ready for a seance, you're investigating, they've got reporters around. Okay. Yeah, I could see there not being any children around. The one guy there, one of the crew, Paul, begins with a B. I think it's Blarts. They said that, okay, well, maybe it's him because if you look at it, even though it's kind of down there by the floor, it's like maybe he's leaning out, maybe sitting on the floor, leaning out to the hallway sort of thing. Kind of looks like him a little bit. Similar shirts, but the shirts are different. So it's like, okay, I can see where you're saying it's him, but the shirts are different, so it can't be him. People were talking about the eyes. That is it's a photograph through an IR camera, and it's like, okay, yeah, you get that shine, that eye shine with that type of camera, but with a human eye, it's only in like, the irises that will do that of the eyes. So you'll see it, but then on the outside with the whites of the eyes, you don't have that eye shine. And the boy's eyes are like completely shining, the whole thing. So it's like,
it makes you stop and think. It does.
Yeah.
So
I lean toward it being legit, but I still, if somebody came out tomorrow with a reasonable explanation for it, then I'd be like, okay, fine.
Yeah. I like the Warrens because like all the cases that they did are at least really interesting. Like to read about, and it's crazy. Yeah. Like they're super famous. But do you have anything like that keeps you up at night from all the stuff you've investigated or read about? Or have you had anything follow you or get attached to you? Like what do you do? Do you worry about that?
I haven't really had anything follow, and all this time I really haven't had any attachments or anything like that. Like stuff that keeps me up at night. No, I'm up at night anyway. That's how I get everything done. I only get about 3 or 4 hours of sleep each night. The only time that something like that has happened is Shauna and I were driving from Illinois to Ohio before we moved in together. She was in Illinois. I was still out in Ohio. And so we're driving out to Ohio together. I came here and picked her up. And like something on one of the rest stops jumped into the car with us, and so so we're telling you can't hang out here. You need to go. You need to get out of the car. What I say is that be strong, firm. When you investigate, everybody has their own little thing that they do to protect themselves. At least most people do. Some people just go walking right in without doing anything. But like I have a couple of prayers that I'll say or whatever. Some people have their stones. Some people do some sort of ritual going in and then coming out to kind of cleanse themselves and stuff like that. I'll just turn around and say, I appreciate your time, but you have to stay here. You cannot come home with me. And I'm just firm about it. And I have a belief that that's going to work. And nothing's ever followed me home. So, to me, that's what it comes down to is, a lot of people will debate, different rituals, different religions, all this stuff. And it's like, to me, whatever it is that you believe, as long as you are of the mindset that this is going to work, this is going to protect me, it will.
That's good, because I really don't do that much. I sometimes I've thought about and worried about, and the only time I've ever had something that felt like there was something there was in a cemetery in New Orleans. And that was like when we did the trip last year. And that was like one of our last places. And I think I might have disturbed something, but went back and kind of like apologized.
Okay.
I don't think it
felt
like, but it was the first time where I felt like, man, I intruded in something's space, like that they did not like that at all. And it was like I was off by myself, like Blake and my wife were like off, like looking and doing their own thing, and I was like, I should not have come over here. I mean, I don't know.
That happens sometimes. But you did good by going back and apologizing and all that. So,
but I think like that, like I think I had just gotten kind of like, we had been so many places and hadn't had anything that I just wasn't. I mean, I was going wherever, not really caring, just filming. Like, we're just gonna go peep into this, because they like it was really old and like stuff was like kind of cracking. So I was just like putting the camera up in here. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be interesting footage. So I don't know. So do you have anything like? You also like unsolved mysteries and stuff. Do you have any unsolved mysteries you'd really like to know the answer to? If you could pick one, like one case that could be solved.
If I could pick one, probably the Black Dahlia. Yeah, that was really interesting to me. I mean, I like the Lizzie Borden case too, but I'm like 99.9% sure it was Lizzie. So the Black Dahlia one, though, there's so many different ideas and a lot of speculation. Zodiac is another good one. I know on my channel I covered a lot with the Making a Murderer series, and that one I think we'll probably find out at some point anyway. So I'll let that one play out.
I hadn't watched any of your Making of the Murderer videos, but I saw like where you made any of them. What's your quick like elevator pitch on what happened in the
it's hard. I do not believe that Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey had anything to do with that. The confession that Brendan gave was completely coerced. You go back, you watch the video, and he's a slow kid. He had learning disabilities and all that, and you can see the way the cops are just manipulating him. They wanted one piece of information out of him so that they had a way to go back to the car and do some stuff. And I'll just say this: I do not believe that the police killed Teresa Halbach. I don't believe that, even though there's a lot of people out there who said the police killed her. No, the police, they took advantage of a situation.
Yeah.
Avery was suing them anyway for him being in jail for 18 years beforehand, which they had proved through DNA analysis that he was actually innocent. So, he had a lawsuit out there that was going to cost them millions and millions of dollars. Small county, it's going to, drain their economy and all that. So I get that would really hurt them. So they want to get rid of the Avery guy. And, okay, this woman turns out, first missing, then dead. See if we can pin it on him so we can get rid of this headache. So, especially since, the last place that she was seen was on his property. So, but I believe that they took advantage of a situation and set him up for it. There's a lot of interesting suspects. I've thrown out there an idea that maybe it was an accident, that you had a couple of guys running around on the property that were getting ready to go hunting. So maybe one of their weapons accidentally fired, and they panicked. Maybe it killed her, and they panicked, and this is what they did to get rid of her. So that's one idea. A lot of people like to point out the ex-boyfriend. How in the world did he get into some of her different phone records and stuff like that? And he had the day planner, her day planner on him when it should have been in her car, because she had it with her on the day that she went missing and had never gone home. So how did he end up with it? So there's some different, I think, ideas out there in other suspects that should have been looked at, but they wanted to get rid of Avery because of that lawsuit. And unfortunately, Brendan Dassey ended up along with it, just because they needed some additional information out of him, or to get him to basically cough something up so that they could further work the case on Avery. So it's sad.
Have you written any like crime or unsolved mystery books? Do you have any planned?
Well, I mean, I have the 2 detective fiction books.
Yeah.
You know, so
would you do a real life thing, or
like true crime?
Yeah,
maybe I might do something like that at some point. It's not currently in the works though.
I just always thought it'd be kind of hard, like writing about that stuff with real people. Like you don't want someone to freak out. I don't know if they could sue you or not. Like if you, I don't know.
Yeah, you're gonna step on toes, and you know, somebody. I mean, depending on what you say, you know, because there's always that chance of libel. You know, depending on what you say and how you say it. So you have to choose your words wisely as you're putting down these different things that you're saying. So yeah, it's always a possibility.
Yeah, I always worry about that a little bit when we're covering like true crime type stuff. Or
yeah, no, I've had people get ticked off with, you know, the videos that I put out. With the Black Bear Church video that I did. Now we did that was the My Ghost Story episode that I was on, was for the Black Bear Church episode, and so we got disallowed from filming there because of my YouTube video, and they got really upset because a lot of people have speculated for many years. It's an abandoned church. Yeah, it's been abandoned since the late 60s, early 70s, out in the middle of nowhere. There's no roof on it. It's just a stone structure that's sitting out there right now. And, you know, so kids would go out there, mess around. There was suspected cult activity out there because of some of the different symbols that we're seeing. There was and it's been kind of a local legend anyway, that people are out there doing that sort of stuff. And there was like this stone, it was like it was a pillar with a stone top on it in one of the back rooms. And, you know, we found evidence back there of burnt animal bones, and the stone was charred and stuff like that. So it's like, it looks like somebody was doing something. So, you know, I simply said that, you know, there was some evidence back there of some cult activity, maybe some animal sacrifice, you know, not that the church was doing it, but after. I guess I didn't say not that the church was doing it. I said it was, you know, after the church had been closed. And it wasn't clear enough. I didn't say that, well, it wasn't the church people. They got ticked off. They thought that I was saying that it was the people from the church that were doing, you know, these occult activities out there. And so they barred us from filming out there when that episode came up. You know, the one guy was so ticked off. He was talking about suing me over that. And it's like, go back and watch it. I never said that the people were doing occult activities. So every time I talk about that story now, I'd make that clarification just in case they ever come back through another video that's on Black Bear Church. And yeah, I clarify it. No, the parishioners did not practice the occult. It was other people coming in after the fact that it looks like they did.
I mean, just thinking about it, I mean, a lot of people go in and explore abandoned places after and do dumb things, especially kids. If they were just messing around, they might not have even meant it cultish. They could have just been being dumb. I try to make sure like I source everything just in case like that I find, and try not to like ever, because some people pick out the weirdest details in a video and say like, just on our most recent one about someone was like saying like this specific thing didn't happen. I'm like, I didn't just make that up. And I looked through the sources and grabbed it and put it in the comment. I'm like,
yeah,
that wasn't just me trying to be like make some sort of narrative. So
yeah, a lot of times I'll throw in there like legend has it that da 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 da. So it's like, you know, it just depends on what the story is.
Yeah. So like, how did you start like Haunted Road Media? Like, how did you go from being an author to like your own like publisher?
Yeah. So over the years, you know, as a writer, a lot of people would come up to me and ask me, okay, how do you get published? How do you write? You know, what are the steps that you take? How do you do query letters? All of that stuff. And so I'd give them some advice and throw them out to the wolves. So with Haunted Road Media, of course, I was already doing the video stuff. I just hadn't made it like an official business or anything yet. But, excuse me, instead of just throwing them out to the wolves like that, I just decided, well, why don't I actually just help them through the process? It's like, I've been down that road a number of times myself. I know how it's done. I have some resources for, you know, printing and all that. Why not just help other people with, you know, their dreams, you know, to get them published. So that's why I started doing the book publishing part of Haunted Road Media. And so one of the glories of YouTube back in the day, as far as the video side, is that I guess it doesn't really happen anymore, but you used to be able to get click bombed, where somebody, if they didn't like you or whatever, they could keep coming back to your videos and clicking on ads and clicking on ads and clicking on ads. And so YouTube would see that as a signal, like, oh, they're trying to spam the ads to get ad revenue, and then they kill you. So that happened with my original channel. And so I had a lot of problems with that channel there in the end. So that just got shut down. And I started the Haunted Road Media channel and re-released a bunch of videos, updated them a little bit. And so that was the video side of it. And it kind of coincided at the same time that we started the publishing side. So there's a couple different things that we do with that. So there's the individual books for people who want to get published. Then we have the Encounters with the Paranormal series, which is actually the first book that was published with Haunted Road Media. It's like, okay, let me try a little book here and get the thing going. And so these are collections of stories, not just my own, but from people from all over. And the idea is that, you know, I've had a lot of paranormal experiences, but you may not have had the same experience that I've had, so you won't be able to relate to me. But here's a bunch of people from all over with all kinds of different experiences. So one of those people may be able to relate to you, or you may be able to relate to one of those other people. There's one of the things that's come up a lot is, you know, people just, you know, send me a message, say, thank you, you know, by you relating this story or doing this video or whatever, you helped me to realize I'm not crazy. These things have actually happened to me. So how much more, you know, how much better would it be if there are all these other, you know, people out there with all these different experiences contributing to this, so that, you know, the masses get it and they're like, hey, I've had that, and I've had it. So people become more comfortable with the experiences that they've had. The other thing that we've done with the Encounter series is that the 3 most recent ones, we didn't do it with the first one, but with the next 3 in the series, part of the proceeds go to help the haunted locations that are featured on the covers. So Golden Rush Showboat, Mineral Springs Hotel, Fairy Plantation, these are endangered haunted locations that we're helping. So part of the proceeds will go to them, and, you know, try to hopefully keep them afloat.
No, that's really cool. I didn't know that you did that. That's really cool. Just, I think places should be preserved. Like, one of the things I really like about, like, the paranormal stuff is, like, the historic side, the history to stuff, and learning about that. So
yeah, we lose so much of it to progress. And I'm not against progress. I mean, I love my cell phone, you know. We're able to use the internet right now through the camera, and all this stuff is great, but let's not forget where we came from, you know. Let's hold on to a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, so, like, with the publishing and stuff, like, how hard is that, like, I don't know, like, to be profitable in the 21st century? Like, what all do you focus on when you publish a book? Like, do you have, like, a marketing plan, or, like, what all do you do?
Yeah, you know, and there's also a degree where it rests on the author to promote their stuff. You know, only, like, even when it comes to, like, the big publishing houses, they only promote, like, the top people, like Stephen King and what have you, and all the other smaller authors that they take on, I mean, they're kind of left to fend for themselves, which is kind of sad. So I mean, I do as much as I can as far as, like, getting out to social media and hitting up, like, their local bookshops and all of that. I mean, it's a little bit more difficult as a small publisher, but to compensate for that, hey, you know, realizing we're a smaller publisher, we're trying to get ourselves out there, get distribution up. I give, like, the best royalty scheme that's out there right now, because for one, I do it off of the suggested retail price. Everybody else does it off of, like, the wholesale price, or worse is if you can imagine this, the little bit of profit between what it costs the publisher to create the book for and what they actually sell it to the wholesaler for. So it's this even smaller amount. So to give you an example, for whatever reason, like a year and a half ago, my Campfire Tales Midwest book through Schiffer, and I'm not downplaying Schiffer, they put together a very good quality book. They've published 3 of my books. I noticed on the royalty form, oh, I've sold 200 of them to somebody. Sold 200 books. You expect that to, be a decent amount of money. It was only like $45 that I got off of that. 200 bucks. Wow,
Yeah.
really? I mean, it turns out to be like 18 cents a copy. It was ridiculous. Now, that same number of sales through Haunted Road Media, that would have gotten the author about $350. Big difference.
That's
So
definitely a big difference. Do you guys do audiobooks? I meant to check on Audible, but I didn't.
we don't do audiobooks. A lot of people ask about that. Do you do audiobooks? And people have always wanted me to put it, like, especially in my mystery books. They're like, oh, you do that really well in audio. And because I've read for different videos, I've read parts of the stories and books and stuff like that. You should do an audiobook. It's and I could do that. I have the equipment. It's just a lot of time to put into that. So I haven't done audiobooks yet. It's something I would definitely want to do down the road.
Have you thought about, here's a business, have you thought about just doing like all the horror narration channels, have them do like the audio for you and then give them a cut, like a commission off of it? And so like if you had authors that were willing to do that, because then you'd be tapping into another subscriber base too. So, or at least fan base that you could dip into.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
No, like one thing I've had like idea, like even if like I composed like all of our stuff into a book, one thing I would do is an audiobook, but I would get a bigger channel to narrate it. That way you could double dip both subscriber bases. So
there you go. That's a good idea.
Yeah. So, but you could do that with authors, and you could even like have like the authors like look at the channels and stuff, and like they could pick their favorite one if you have choices. And you could do, I know Mr. Davis does some audiobook stuff. So, and like they'll do like the preface or like one story from it. They'll release it on the channel. So you get that exposure. So
cool. Well, I'll look into that.
I like coming up with ideas.
I'm always open to new ideas. So
it's a lot harder to execute these things. So it's a lot easier just to bullshit like, oh, this sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
No, like, I don't know. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. It's the main way I consume. I still read some, but like just time spent in the car and everything, or just doing stuff around the house, because being like, it's frustrating being an adult.
I travel a lot, so I do consume a lot of audiobooks. You got to be careful. Sometimes I'll knock you out.
Yeah.
But I still make a point to read as well. So.
No, it's important. Like most of my like ghost books like are actual physical copies though, because there's so many cool ones that I've found just in like thrift stores and stuff, and they'll just be like old and they have stories you've never heard of before, and it's really cool.
Oh yeah, so, no, I definitely love going through old books. Just for just that very reason, stories lost to time. Even going through old newspaper accounts. Like we're in the middle of this project. We just released a video the other week of lost ghost stories in Alton, Illinois, where Shauna stumbled across this last year doing some research for one of our cases, and she came across this treasure trove of old ghost stories from the mid 1800s to the early 1900s that were actual reports and accounts in the newspapers, where they would actually print these ghost stories in there, and that not as a ghost story, but as, hey, this is something that actually happened. So they're reporting the ghosts appearing or the spirit doing whatever as actual news. So it's like, okay, this is cool. Let's actually gather this stuff up and bring it into a fresh light. So all these lost ghost stories that people, Alton's considered an extremely haunted town, but none of these people actually remembered, and were people were investigating them, but there they were.
Yeah, I think that's one problem with like the internet. Like I love the internet and everything, but it's so easy just to copy pasta the same stories. So you kind of get like these like top 5, top 10 little like haunted things and ideas of the area. But yeah, then you forget all these things that could have happened, or even like you said, like newspaper articles of stuff that happened. Because with us, like when we did our La Jolla College video, like I found like a bunch of like school newspapers and even like city newspapers that talked about like incidents there. And that was so cool to find that it was like reported on back then. And that was the Pauline Picard video we did. Like they had, I found sources that had like the original French newspapers from it that people had like translated on the internet. And that was really cool to see, like that was like the real news happening right then that they reported on it. So
Yeah, yeah, I love those old resources like that. So definitely do your research.
No, it's important. That's the I don't know. I think talking about like story and everything, like everything's like slave to story. Like you have to have a good story. You have to have the research there. You have to have it. I mean, that's why I struggle with the like investigation videos, like putting them together, because the way ours is done, like the story, the narration's like the backbone of it. Then we just fill it in
Yeah.
from there. So
Yeah, when you're doing those types of narrated stories, like I have my friend and that ghost stories, they're the story's laid out for you. Yeah, with the investigation videos, you have to find the story,
yeah,
and that's a little more challenging.
it's like working backwards.
Yeah.
So like what's it like being an author nowadays? Like how much does like social media and stuff follow you? Like how like even with
It's
big
different.
authors, like
Yeah, I mean, my dream as a kid was always to be an author, and back then, you know, um, late 70s, early 80s, it was a totally different environment. I mean, you didn't have the internet, so all
yeah,
that social media and there. I mean, there are vanity publishers, I guess, but there weren't ways for you to do things on your own like I'm able to do now. I mean, for me to be um, a publisher back then, like I'd need my own printing presses and all that crazy stuff. And so I mean I outsource all that stuff now, and that's through resources on the internet. So it's been fantastic. Even the difference from when my first book came out, Deadly Errors, to now is just vastly different. Like I said, back then it was MySpace and the website, and that was it. But these days you have all these different platforms. And there's some give and take. It's both good and bad, because these days anybody can get published, which is great. That's awesome. People that were struggling to find a place to put their book and get published, they can find a place now. The problem is it also means anybody can get published. So there's a lot of garbage out there now too. So you kind of have to weed through it. There's a huge slush pile out there of stuff, and not to put anything down, but when you're holding a well-written piece of work and when you're not. So and there's and it's kind of sad, because there are people out there that have some fantastic story ideas and just don't know how to write. So it's like, so those type of people, it's like, hey, you have some great stories, take a couple classes, and get a little bit better grasp of the language, or just read a little bit more. That always helps. I mean, seriously, reading, and I know we talked about audiobooks earlier, and that's great for being able to listen while you're driving and all that, but while you're reading, you're noticing just sentence structure and how different elements are constructed and all that. So yeah, all the technology these days is great, but there's still some parts of the way it had been back in the day that you still kind of like, those elements of what we had back then were a little bit better.
yeah. I think people should read before they you need to read. It's important just to know, like, just to learn in general.
Yeah.
So how do you handle like splitting up your time between like your job and like the like publishing and writing and videos? What do you spend?
I'm flying by the seat of my pants.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a challenge, I mean, the day job pays the bills. I mean, sure, I'm making some money with the other stuff that I'm doing, but it is not enough to pay the bills and take over from the day job right now. So I mean, that's eventually the goal. So
You're not a greedy, evil publisher sucking people's pockets dry.
like I said, I give the best royalty structure out there to my writers. It's just, if I just need to get distribution up a little bit more, because I mean, and that's always been one of the problems with the publishing industry, and even with the music industry. The publishers and the record companies and all that take such a huge percentage from you, and so I mean, while I'm still taking my percentage as a publisher, I'm not taking anywhere near as much as some of these other guys. And the percentage that I'm taking, like I said, is off the suggested retail price. I mean, even if there's an extended market that the book sells for less on, I'll still give that author the suggested retail price on that sale, even if suggested retailer price is $16.99 and is sold in this extended market for $10.99. You're going to get the percentage off the $16.99 because you sold a book. That means my cut's lower.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'm just happy they got their book sold and the book is out there somewhere. And maybe whoever bought that book will read it and start suggesting it to their friends. Hey, this was a good book. So I try to be generous like that. Yeah.
So how do you find like the authors? Do they all come to you now, or do you like try to find like just go for like book ideas that people send you, or like how does it work?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people come to me. Somebody may have recommended them to me. They may come across the website. They're looking for a publisher. I have other authors out there that say, hey, if you're looking to get published too, my publisher is Haunted Road Media. So yeah, I don't go fishing for the authors.
Yeah. Do you have your authors that
the only thing that I've done, I'll say this, the only thing that I've kind of done there is like with the first Encounters with the Paranormal book, there was a woman, Kat Gash, good friend of mine back in Maryland, and she had submitted a couple of stories. And they were really well written. It's about some experiences that she had like in Ireland and all that. I'm like, wow, Kat, you did a really nice job with these. And she's like, you think so? I'm like, yeah. She's like, well, I have more. I'm like, really? She's like, oh yeah. I've had a lot of different experiences over the years. And I'm like, we should put all this into a book. And she's like, well, that's something I've always wanted to do. And so it was really nice because, it was kind of like a little suggestion on my part, like, hey, you should put all those into a book. Discovering that was something that she always wanted to do. And then here it was, I was able to make a dream of hers come true. And then this, and it gets even a little bit better. Adam Tillery, who's a fantastic illustrator with us, I asked him to do some illustrations for her book. He had done some for he does them for all the Encounters books. And so he agreed to do so. And that's another thing. I give him a cut of that too, a percentage off of that does not take away from her. It's all taken away from me. So, but in any case, he did all these fantastic drawings for her book. And this one of the boy James that she had seen when she was a child, apparently the way he drew it was exactly the way she had seen this boy when she was young, and she burst into tears. She's like, that's him. That's who I saw. Yeah.
Damn. So do you have any tips for people who are trying to write or like do videos? Like, where do you start? Do you think people should be like focus on social media, or you think they should focus on writing, or what do you think?
Well, you have to write first before you have anything to promote on social media. So, my biggest tip for writing, and it may sound mundane, but it's true. Read, write. It's the only way you're going to hone your craft. When you read, you're going to take in all of that information. And when you write, it's just like with anything else, more practice. You get better as you go along. I look back at some of my older stuff, and there's some parts I'm like, whoa, I wrote that. But then there's other times like, oh, I wrote that. Wow. So yeah, just, practice and hone your craft. As far as the social media, I mean, you have to have some sort of social media presence these days. I mean, you're not going to get by without it. So, so take it seriously. I try to get out to as many platforms as I can, and that really spreads me thin. So if you can't stay up all hours of the night like me, then find one or two platforms that you're really comfortable with, and just hit them hard.
It's important. Work.
It's a lot of work. Yeah, and that's another thing. You can't go into it expecting, oh yeah, I'm going to publish a book and cool, I'm going to make my millions. That's not going to happen. It's just not. Even Stephen King, I mean, had to work up to get to where he's at, and then he started making all the millions. But yeah, it's a lot of work, and you have to understand that when you set forth on this, I mean, the writing's a lot of work. Okay, you're going to go through a whole editing process and all that along with it. That's work. Once it's published and it's out there, the marketing is like a whole second job. So I mean, with me, I'm working multiple jobs. So I have my day job. There's all the video production. That's a job. There's the writing and editing and everything. That's a job. The marketing, the social media stuff. That's a job. So I just happen to love most everything that I'm doing. So, yeah. So you got to keep it in mind. You have an additional job to promote yourself. You are your own brand. So you have to put yourself out there, and you know, it's you'll see it if you go a few days or whatever without doing something. All that attention you lose. So you got to do it like every day, every day, every day. And some days you're just like, oh my gosh, I have to go out there and do this, and it might be a little bit tedious, but the more you do, exponentially it will grow.
Yeah. So out of all the projects you've worked on, like what are you the most proud of, or what would you recommend to someone new that they should check out besides your channel? Like,
yeah, check out Haunted Road Media channel, subscribe, watch all the videos,
like, comment, bell up,
comment,
hit the bell button.
I mean, there's there's a lot of stuff that I'm proud of. I mean, there's some good videos out there that I really liked. I mean, I really liked the Mineral Springs thing that we did last year, which wasn't even a big focus on me. I let the Dave Nunnally, who runs Its Ratings in Mineral Springs, I let him do most of the narration. I was just interviewing him, and I let him kind of introduce the different areas, and it was our investigation footage. So I really like that video. And there's some, what am I most? I mean, there's always my baby. I mean, there's always my first book, Yeah. But I'm really proud of Haunted Road Media Paracon. We had our very first one last year, and really I was nervous about. I'd never put together an event like that before. And I have lining up all these speakers and arranging all the different vendors, and we got live music coming in, and so it was like all this stuff, and people kept telling me, "Don't worry about it. You're good. We'll help you." And then a lot of people did help, and it was fantastic. And I had people coming up to me after that saying, "This is one of the best organized conventions that I've been to." I'm like, seriously? And I've been to a number myself. So, but I'm right in the thick of it. So, but yeah, I mean, I was really proud of that one. And we have another one coming up this June. So if you're interested, June 1st. So I'm really proud of that. And just I'm proud of the fact that I've been able to publish some really fantastic people and help them get their stories out. A lot of people have this dream, and to be able to help somebody realize that dream, is something that's very special to me. The fact that we're helping people, both the writers to realize that dream, the readers as they're realizing, hey, other people have also had experiences. We're helping locations to keep some funding and all of that. So I'm really proud of a lot of those things like that.
Yeah. Do you go to any other festivals yourself? Did you do like a festival tour? Like what inspired Paracon?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be asked out to a lot of events, and I'll go speak and all that. So I don't really attend them as a guest. I'm usually one of the people they're coming to see. So I have a different perspective on it all. But yeah, I usually do a number of those a year. This past year, I was really, really busy with a lot of those where, and we had our own. I had a couple in the spring, then I had surgery, then we had our own, and then throughout the summer, it's like I had a few of them in July, then I moved, and then it's like from August through September, we had a bunch of stuff going on. So there was like 6 weeks in a row where I was always driving around somewhere. So imagine I'm holding down a daytime job, and it's just like as soon as the job ends, I'm in the car and I'm driving off somewhere, to go to and do one of these events. So
does your day job know about your side hustle?
Yeah.
What do they think about? Do they think you're Superman, like crazy going places? Or
yeah, they don't know how I do it, but they're cool with it. A lot of them have read my books. I had like a little, when I still actually work there, I work remotely now for the same company, but I had like a little library sitting on my desk, and people would borrow books and they check it out. So some people believe, some people don't. It's one of those things, but they think it's cool.
That's awesome. Do you release any of your books like electronically, or is it all physical?
Yeah, we have ebook versions of them as well. So if you have a Kindle, you can get that as well.
Yep. Yeah, I don't think I've ever Kindled any like paranormal. Literally, like most of my paranormal stuff is stuff I've had like growing up, like because I've kept all of them. Because that's what, like you said, like there wasn't as much. Even I know I'm younger, but still, most of my like love for paranormal stuff started with books. Like I found one in my like library in my elementary school, and that's what got me interested in paranormal stuff. And then from there, like we used to go to the beach, like in like the Wilmington area. I found a book on there, and then I just kept growing. Then Civil War ghost books, and just kept growing.
Yeah, there's something different about actually holding the book in your hand. I have a Kindle, and I own several Kindle books, and you can get a lot on there, which is great. But yeah, there's something about turning those pages, holding it physically in your hand, and even with the way my mind and my memory works. I have a semi photographic memory, so like I could read something in a book, and I could tell you about how far into the book it is and whether it's on the right or left page and like top or bottom. And so if I'm trying to recall some sort of fact, I'll be like, oh, this was in that book, and yeah, I was toward the back here, and I'm looking, and I would find it like within a few minutes. You can't really do that with a Kindle.
Yeah. The only thing I really like about Kindles is if it's something like I'm researching something and I find this really like obscure book, but it has an ebook and it's going to take me forever to ship or whatever, the actual book, I can just boom, download it right there. And that's really convenient. So,
yeah, that is convenient to be able to do that. Yeah. And we do have quite a few ebook sales.
Yeah. So man, what do you have any goals for 2019 or for like the future of Haunted Road Media? Like where do you see yourself going in the future?
2019. Well, I'm getting my Shadow Person book out. That's a personal goal.
Yeah.
For Haunted Road Media, I mean, right now we're in the process of really building up the channel. So we're of course gonna have our investigation videos and our Friday Night Ghost Frights. We're gonna add a bit more with kind of some learning videos about the paranormal. We've always wanted to do more of that anyway. We kind of already do that a bit with the Inside the Upside Down podcast show, the live stream show. But those are like an hour to an hour and a half long videos, and we get into some like deep discussions and all that, which is great. But sometimes when people come to YouTube, they want something that's going to be like 5-10 minutes, just explain something to them, and then they can go. And maybe they can binge watch a few of them or whatever. They have enough time for that. Okay, so we're gonna like take some of those topics that we've covered and some new topics too, and put them into some smaller, more condensed sort of videos. So that'll be like a new series coming out. We also are gonna continue on. Like we just put out the first Alton historic newspaper ghost story video. We don't have an official title for that series, but there's several more of those. So we thought it was really cool how with the first one, the two stories like linked together. It was originally supposed to be like one story and then another story, but these two, the first two that we did, just they crossed paths. So it's like, okay, let's do that. So we'll have more of that coming out too. We've got the Paracon and just and we're growing as far as a publishing house. We have just at the beginning of this year 5 books that are going to come out all at one shot, where usually it was like we might have 5 books in a year.
Yeah.
Now right here at the beginning of the year it's going to be 5 books, and that was another fun project, editing Michelle Hamilton's book. You said something about Civil War ghosts. She did something similar to what Shauna and I did with the videos, but in a book. And she did it very independently of us. She had no idea that we were coming out with a video series because we kept it very hush-hush for a long time. But she focused on ghost stories and ghost sightings that were reported in the newspapers during the Civil War.
Yeah.
So it's really a cool book the way it's been shaping up. It's going to be released here very, very soon. But like we've snipped out the actual articles and headlines, and there's like historic photos in there, and it's really put together well. So that's one that I'm proud of as an editor of putting together.
Yeah. So what all like series do you have on your channel that people could watch or follow?
Yeah. So we have the on Tuesday nights, so starting at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central, we have Edge of the Rabbit Hole, which is we're going on our 4th year now with that. We started off as a radio show, and then we moved it to YouTube live stream. Excuse me. So that's myself and Vanessa Holgo. We bring on a guest, kind of like what you're doing now, and we talk about all kinds of different paranormal topics, whether it's like we have Carl Johnson, demonologist, coming on here in February. We had Andrea Perrin on a couple of weeks ago. Some interesting people that we bring in. So that's Edge of the Rabbit Hole. We follow that up immediately after with Inside the Upside Down, which is basically us taking a paranormal topic and just really, digging deep into it. Yeah, we're playing on Stranger Things. So
Yeah.
we're going into the Upside Down and looking at all this different supernatural type of stuff. And so I actually, because the Upside Down is blue, so I actually turn on these blue lights back here and make all this setup back here blue. So we have fun with that. And that was actually by request from our viewers. So we were doing an hour of Edge of the Rabbit Hole, and they were like, "Hey, can we go for another hour? We'd love it." And Vanessa couldn't do that for 2 hours, and so it's like, "Well, we'll just make a second show. We'll go another hour." Usually, it's getting a little late for those in the East, but that's all right. So that's Tuesdays. Tuesdays is very, very busy. On Fridays, we have Friday Night Ghost for 7. We do a 7 o'clock YouTube premiere. It's funny because I'd been doing like premiere type stuff before YouTube came out with premieres, and I still do it, where I do a little live feed on Facebook and then tell everybody, hey, go watch the video. I'm about to publish it. So we've been doing those. The video will kick off at 7 p.m. Eastern time, but then on Facebook, I'll do the live stream to kind of preview it, and then we'll all sit there and watch the Friday Night Ghost Frights together. And that's a ghost story type of video. Did Annabelle this past Friday Night Ghost Frights for tonight. Sometimes I'll do like almost like a little recap of like, hey, here's some of our experiences at a particular location. So I kind of mix it up a little bit, but yeah, like Lizzie Borden, Black Dahlia, did the Black Nun. Did a feature on Valak, the demon from, So yeah, that's Friday nights. Our paranormal videos. So we've had a couple different series with that. So I had a Ghosts and Legends documentary series. I don't do so many of those anymore, but basically it was taking a location and doing it really like a documentary. So you kind of get a introduction to the place. Here's some facts and figures. Here's some of the hauntings. Here's some more facts. Here's some more hauntings. That sort of thing. And that's done pretty well for a while. I used to do some Paranormal Roads, which would be like a road trip video. It doesn't really cater to YouTube too well because the whole front end of it is like, driving and hitting different, locations. And some people like that, but most people are like, I want to get to the investigation. So, we have just straight up paranormal investigation videos that, we try to get out a couple of those each month. The next one that we have coming up is for Cheney House. Which is a very, very cool haunted house not too far from here in Jerseyville, Illinois. It's interesting because originally it was just a little red house and they kind of built around it, and now it's this beautiful Victorian mansion, but it just started off as this little red house.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of great history to it. And we had some interesting experiences there as well. So we're doing a lot of different stuff.
I like how you talk about just like managing like social media across platforms, like doing the whole like live stream on Facebook. Like that's a good way to double dip into other areas because it's hard to juggle all the different platforms.
It is. It really is. But I've had a strong following out on Facebook for a long, long time, and so in YouTube, it's been a bit more of a grind. So and there's a lot of people on Facebook that'll come out and watch the YouTube videos. It's just a matter of letting them know, like, hey. Come out and watch it, because that first hour is so important that you want to get as many people as you can to come out and watch during that first hour. So it's like I'm just letting them know, hey, it's going to go live here, so click on the link and go watch it.
So do you repost?
I give them a little preview, of what's to come and some background information.
Do you repost videos on Facebook or is it all on YouTube?
It's all on YouTube. What I do. Some people say, well, just repost the video on Facebook because the issue is, Facebook doesn't like YouTube; they're competitors. So if you just post the link to the video on Facebook and let Facebook embed it into their site, you won't get credit for the view on YouTube. like Dara Leaves and people like that. I've tested that out, and it used to work back in the day, but it doesn't anymore. So the way I've circumvented all that, because I want them to come to YouTube. I want to be able to grow the YouTube channel and all that. So I'll post the photo of my thumbnail, and then I'll post the link. You got to do the photo first. Post the photo first, so that that's what Facebook is embedding. And then I'll put, description of the video, and they'll say watch at, and then here's the link. And that link will then kick them over to YouTube.
That's interesting. Mostly what I had been doing with Facebook is Wednesdays I'll post an older video of ours that came out like a long time ago, and then Fridays I've been posting our live stream from the previous week, telling them to like check out this live stream. But I've heard the whole thing, like Facebook doesn't like outside links, and same for most social media because they want to keep you in their platform. So I try.
Yeah, it's tough for it's tough to get in that feed of everybody. They will limit it because you are posting an outside link, which is great about having something like the White Rabbit Notification Squad, because they will share that out too. They'll share it out on Facebook. So, I'll get like a bunch of shares on Facebook for that sort of stuff. And I do a, kind of like that, where I'll do a Throwback Thursday. Do you have the community tab yet on YouTube?
Yeah, we do. We have only used it twice, maybe 3 times. Not much.
Use it more. I use it mostly for Throwback Thursday, but I've done some different things with that too. Like there was one time that not too long ago here, like the other week or two ago, I changed up the thumbnail on one of the videos, and I just posted it as like, hey, I thought this was a better way to do this thumbnail. And people were like, yeah, it pops. But I also posted the link to the video. So I was getting additional views that way. I did a contest out there to name this guy. Yeah. So that was kind of cool. We had a lot of fun with that, doing a poll and what do you want to name the skeleton. So there's definitely some different things to use it for. Or just, if you're, and you have to play around with it a little bit, because people on YouTube want to watch video. They're not out there for a whole bunch of other stuff. So like naming the skeleton was a one-off. Occasionally, I won't do it a lot, but occasionally I'll post a photo of somewhere that we were just at and say, hey, this is the location. We have a video coming up on this soon. Be on the lookout for it. And they tend to be okay with that, because you're telling them this is a preview of a video that's coming. So,
yeah. I don't want to make people mad, unsubscribe.
Right. You don't want to litter up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to litter up their feed with a whole bunch of stuff that's not a video, because they're out there for videos. And there was something that I did. It did it automatically for me. I can't remember what the heck it was. I have to look into it. But when I was getting ready to post a video, it put like a little preview clip out there automatically for me in the community. And I can't remember exactly how that happened. It was a preview of one of our, it was our investigation video out at the old YMCA in Rock Island. Yeah, off the top of my head, I can't remember how I put that little preview clip. But basically, it took a snippet from within the video and put it out there. It's like, hey, here's a preview of what's coming up. So I was like, okay, cool. And put it right in the community tab. And they like that.
Yeah, I haven't had that happen, so I don't know. I try to play with different things and give ideas, and like I test stuff, and I like on Twitter and do different things, different ways how to market a video, or even share like other channels. I like to see what people react to, what's clickable, see how I can boost it. Because I mean, to me, like you said, like having to step away from a video, like to me, like the best advice I heard was like try to finish a video early, because I was really struggling to come up with like a way I was going to market a video when I was done, because I was getting to the point to where I was like, when I'm like uploading the video, I'm done. But that's only like half the battle, because then you need people to see it. So then I was like drawing blanks of how am I going to actually produce this? Well, I mean, get people to watch it. So
yeah, usually right after I get done uploading the video, I'm spending a lot of time. I'm out there posting it on Twitter. I'm putting stuff out there on Facebook. So tonight, before I came on here, I was doing a lot of that, where I was out there on Facebook and sharing it out, and so they had stuff to be able to share. I'll schedule I'll use Hootsuite to schedule a lot of stuff on Twitter. Yeah, so there's like a whole big marketing facet to it, and promotion facet after you get done uploading the video. It doesn't just stop at, oh, video's done. No, it's more to do. And just, in the comments, it's like, comments will start coming in, and I'm on top of it.
I try to stay on top of the comics. Usually, unless I'm like at work and really busy, like I can stay on top of comments pretty well. Or if it's like when I'm getting ready, like really grinding towards like finishing a video, then I might slack off for like comments that might still be trickling in from the previous video. So that kind of will slow down. But again, I've struggled really hard with the chat, so I'm really sorry I didn't keep up with that, you guys. Oh. That's usually Blake's job. So it was hard balancing it all. Usually it's a two-man show here.
Right.
So thank you for bearing with me on this, because usually I keep up with the outline. I follow along with the questions, have them ready, and Blake keeps up with the chat. And
you need a moderator.
Yeah.
So because like we have or Shauna for Edge of the Rabbit Hole, she's the chat shenanigator. Yeah. So she'll feed me like all the questions that are popping up in the chat so that I have them there. And Vanessa will kind of like watch too, and every once in a while she'll pull one out. And then for Inside the Upside Down, since now I'm here with Shauna and she's actually joining me for the show, one of our quote unquote Cheshire cats, Donna Gorton, will feed me the questions in chat, because I can't keep up with all of it. It's hard. I mean, I'll look and I'll notice some stuff. Oh, somebody said this, somebody said that. But unless they're putting it like bold or whatever, or like a super chat, I'll notice. Of course, I'll notice the super chats. But
it's tough
to keep it up on. Yeah, to keep up on your. So you need a moderator. So somebody in your chat right now who's like a loyal follower, but you're like most loyal stranger. They need to step up and be a moderator for you.
Yeah, I just saw where someone said like that they love your decor. Your background's pretty cool.
Oh,
so,
yeah, thanks.
So how did you come up with all of that? Like, did you start live streaming with that right away, or did you grow that?
No, it's kind of collected over the years. So Ghosty's in the car. So I mean, it kind of started with Ghosty. He's a little squeeze stress toy, but he's a ghost, he's got our logo and everything on there. We sell him for like $5. So he's merch, but he was kind of like the first thing that I really had with me on the show. And I'd put up some t-shirts. This was back when I was in my old apartment before I moved out here and we had the studio. And I would basically put Ghosty in a t-shirt on the couch behind me. And that's really where it started. I got Ichabod Cranium here is what we called him. Added him somewhere along the way one Halloween. I mean, these are Halloween decorations here. This is coffee. This is our own coffee. Haunted Road Roast. Deadly Grounds makes this stuff. It's really good. So
that's impressive. You have your own coffee.
Yeah, that's what I've been drinking right here. So I have a joke that I do on the show, or Haunted Road Roast. It helps you hunt ghosts. Yeah. So
that's when he made it, man. That's impressive.
Yeah. So the banner is actually an old banner that used to be our our banner on all of our stuff, but we've upgraded to like the black and blue motif. So this has got to get updated behind me. But Zara the zombie doll, that's a doll that Shauna created back in September. The very day that she made her, we actually investigated Mineral Springs later that day and just immediately had some activity up there. So if you come across our haunted doll, Zara the zombie doll video, that's actually really interesting what happened to Shauna with her. So yeah, I've kind of just piecemealed it here. Actually, this one here, this is from a YouTube collab. Yeah. Years ago, I did a collab with Amber Walter. We did a swap for Halloween. Yeah, and she was doing a beauty channel at the time, so go figure that.
That's awesome, though. That's really cool.
Yeah.
No, like I need a background. Need to do something. Just do it where I used to do it in my office at work, and now I've been doing it in my house. The only problem, like I hadn't been doing it in my house because of my dog. Like, as you can tell, it can be a little annoying.
Well, I have to admit, just watching other channels and what they do, because some of them do set up with that. Like, do you watch Brittany 44 at all?
Yeah,
Brittany
yeah.
Yeah. Well, she has her whole set and she changes that up all the time. It's like she's got some impressive stuff that she does with her set sometimes. So so that just watching other people like that kind of makes you want to step up your game a little bit. So yeah.
Yeah, me too. But Thank you, man, for joining me tonight. I'm sorry,
Absolutely.
it's a little slow. Struggled a little bit. I appreciate you taking the time. It was really cool hearing about all the stuff, the publishing, being an author. Like that's something different. And I think for real, like try to focus on story first with our channel, and even like with the live stream, having like it kind of pre-prepared, like something ready to go, instead of just trying to wing it. I think it's really important to know the history in the background.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, so everyone,
and thank you for having me on the show. Absolutely appreciate it.
no problem. Everyone, be sure to subscribe to Haunted Road Media if you haven't already done so. I got the links in the description to his Twitter and the website. So do awesome investigations. They have books, podcasts, live streams. Check it out. You won't be disappointed.
That's
So
true. We didn't talk about the podcast. Yeah, iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, Google Play. Yeah, you can get the podcast too.
well, real quick. So is there a difference between the pod? I didn't ask. Is there a difference between the podcast and the streams then?
The Edge of the Rabbit Hole podcast. No, it's basically it's the audio version of the show. The Mike Ricksecker audio journey is the podcast. It does have the Inside the Upside Down live streams, but I also include well, there's some original stuff out there. There's some audio from other things that I do, like I'll do some of my Mike's Morning Mug stuff out on Facebook rather than on YouTube. It was something I was testing out to see if vlogging would be a little bit better out there than on YouTube. So it's got some of that stuff on there too. So.
Yeah. So with your stuff, like, do you have anyone that really inspires you? Do you listen to lore or anything that makes you like want to try different stuff? Because I know like the lore podcast kind of started like originally as like a book type thing.
Yeah, lore podcast is pretty cool. As far as podcasting, it's I can't really say anybody's like inspired me to podcasting. It's just like I need to put this on some sort of audio, and I don't know, maybe I got that from Gary Vee saying it a million times, but you know, well, I have this other side project. It's part of Haunted Road Media, but it's nothing paranormal. So we also have Enigma Underground Radio, which is a internet streaming hard rock and metal station. So and that has seen iterations since like 2005 is when we got started with that, and went on a long hiatus, and it's out there now again. So I've always kind of like been involved with like some sort of radio stuff for a while. Yeah. So it's more, I guess, how long have we had the podcast up there? A year and a half, 2 years, something like that. So it's a little bit more recent that I've been posting actual podcasts, but it's like one of those, like, I know I need to go audio. I listen to podcasts, you know, especially, you know, with the commute in the car and all that, on the long trips that I make, you know, so.
So how do your podcasts compare to YouTube? Like, how do you keep up with like the analytics, or like how do you know what to focus on with it? Because with this, we just kind of rip the audio and we blast it out on the podcast platforms.
And that's pretty much what I do at this point is I'll rip out the audio, throw it out, especially for Edge of the Rabbit Hole. I mean, that's straight what it is. For the Mike Ricksecker audio journey, like I said, it's a little different. It does have the Inside the Upside Down stuff, but then all the extra stuff too. And I guess what I find is that, you know, to just do the podcast alone, that's once a week, and people like stuff more on a, if not daily, then more daily basis. So I'll try to update that a little bit more often, and it's kind of hit or miss right now with what I've noticed. It seems to be a little bit of a different audience with the podcasts, you know, and so I'm trying to get a feel for it. Like Real Ghost Stories Online has a podcast and all that, which is good, but again, that's just like, you know, straight ghost stories and people calling in with their ghost stories and things like that. I'm not exactly doing that. I mean, to a degree, you know, with Edge of the Rabbit Hole, because we have a guest, but it's just it's different.
There's money in podcasts, man. Supposedly, like the ad reads in podcasts are really good if you get big enough, because they do it like per 1,000 listens.
Right.
So that's right here. Helps supplement that YouTube, and like you have the actual real stuff, the books though. So.
Yeah, I mean with YouTube, the ad revenue, you know, it's, I mean, all those guys that do the different videos on building your channel and all that. I mean, they're all right about that ad revenue. It's like it takes you so many views and so much watch time and all that to actually make ad revenue on YouTube that it's, you know, it's more in the sales. And you know, with the live streams, we get the super chats, and you know, we have people that support us through Patreon, and you know, there's of course the book sales and all that too. So it's more from other sources than ad revenue. I mean, every once in a while there'll be like a big video that hits, and it's like, okay, well, we've got a little bit of ad revenue from that one. So it's more, the videos are more of like a you know, exposure. It's a learning tool. It's a communication tool. All of that. It's not necessarily a money generator in and of itself. It's like all these other outside sources that the revenue will come in for when it comes to the videos.
That's, yeah, we don't have any. We have a little bit of AdSense come in and whatever what we have on Patreon, but like I always look at like YouTube and what we're doing now is just like we're building an audience like that will follow us if we want to do anything else, like as long as the same lines, if we wanted to go into books or more longer content and other ways like podcasting, we're building an audience that likes us. And that's one reason why we stream, is so it can be more personable. So you're getting that devoted group. So
have you done anything with Alexa yet?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's something that we've been doing for the last year, and we've you know, got a little audience out there. So there's a Vanessa does a daily tarot through us out there, and then I have Hunter Road Media 365, which kind of just updates with, okay, this is what's coming, or I'll just clip something from one of the shows and put it out there. So you know, it was a little bit of work to get it up and running, and there's still a little bit of a mix on, okay, I just uploaded this, why is it still playing the old one? And then it'll eventually kick in. So it's still a little bit of a playing around with it, but I don't know, it works. It's another audience to kind of reach out to, and that one doesn't take too long. It takes a few minutes every night to put it together. So.
I mean, that's what I try to do, is just piece together little things, try different things, see what works, and just, of course, like get our main uploads, do the live stream, and just see where it goes. But some people, I mean, you crush it, but you see so many channels that can just pump out stuff. It's impressive. So
yeah, I don't know how some of these people do it, because I know what it takes me to do it. And you know, sure, I've got like 1,000 different things on my plate, but you know, some of these videos that are out there, some of these channels, you know, between, you know, their camera work and, you know, and even if it's subtle, you know, they have a few special effects in there. It's like, oh, that little thing over there was pretty cool. You know, it's just, or just even their titling, you know, or, you know, their branding is like some high quality stuff. There are some talented people out there, you know.
Yeah. I always get a little like jealous of like when I listen to like a really good podcast that just like tells the story without doing like any video. Like that just saves so much time. They didn't have to have cool video. They didn't have to edit the video of that or worry about a shaky camera or something.
Right.
Nice. So, but thanks again for
try to find some stock footage or whatever.
Yeah, that too. You don't have to fill a space if you miss something, or I don't know. I mean, you probably, how do you data manage like all that footage? I'm sure like that's a pain too, just keeping up with it all.
Data manage. Well, I've got like, I don't know how many like external, you know, 1, 2, 4 terabyte drives filled up with stuff. I mean, it's a lot. Yeah.
I keep two like main ones that I keep and try to back them up so I don't lose anything. So I have like a one and then a B one just in case something happened with my main one. So it can be that in itself, because I mean, we still have stuff that from like a year ago we haven't released, because I'm really bad about like when we're going, because the arts channel started just from like we travel. I want to film these places and have a story with them. So a lot of times like it's a place I'm going and I'm like, oh, let me check out the stories behind it. But I just make a quick outline of places I can film while I'm there. But I don't go back and like write the script and then edit it till like a few months later. So it can be hectic.
Well, from what I've seen so far, you guys are doing pretty good jobs. You're proud of yourself.
It's a struggle sometimes getting it out there, but no, I appreciate it, and I appreciate all the stuff you do, because you have an insane amount of videos on your channel.
We got over 600 now. Yeah.
I know, that's what I saw. I was like, dang. So And that's a lot. That's a lot of time and effort just that goes into it. So
And we're gonna have some celebrating to do when we hit 1,000. So
yeah.
And actually we're like this close here to 10,000 subscribers. So guys, subscribe because we're doing a big giveaway at 10,000.
Yeah, and you have over 1 million views. You have like 1.2 million views. That's impressive. So
we're getting there.
Yeah. But thanks for watching, you guys. Check it out. Got the links below for website, his channel, and Twitter. And he's on Instagram, Facebook, and everywhere else. You're everywhere. So, but we release new videos every Wednesday. Our next video is the Mandela effect. So look out for that. Yeah. If YouTube pulls another Houdini and our upload disappears, follow us on our social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, everywhere. So we usually post. I'm do pretty good about trying to post different things, different places, so you'll learn some different things. So if you're like the live streams, we do those every Friday at 8 p.m. Usually we have a guest. Usually we do a guest every 2 weeks, and then a week where it's just me and Blake. So until then, you guys, stay strange and check out Mike, Haunted Room Media. It's awesome. You won't be disappointed.